it's interesting because, you talk to people who are gangsters, who were in the mafia, they do consider themselves to be bad people. They have no illusions about themselves. They are bad people in a bad world. That is the way they see themselves. That's the way they see the world around, the vast majority of them. But your average person might do things that are just terrible, but they don't consider themselves to be evil people because they look like normal, well-adjusted, ordinary people. An example of that is Silent Running. In that, the crew on the Valley Forge, they're not portrayed as bad guys at all. And they were told, don't think of yourself as villains in this story. Think of yourself as average guys doing a job every day. The performance that they gave, and that was what they wanted, but what they were doing was evil, and they didn't realize what they were doing was evil. And that was the whole point of the story, that a lot of normal, likable people will, when an authority figure tells them to do this is your job, this is what needs to be done, they will do it a lot of times with little or no question or thought about it. And to me, that's an interesting premise, and I like to use that a lot in my stories. And in war, the two main villains in the story, these guys who are these money men, who are doing this terrible thing, they're going to bully or murder all these people on this island to push them off the island because there's guano on the island, hundreds of millions of dollars of guano, and it's a rare resource, and they're going to make a fortune off of it. But in order to do it, they have to either bully and or kill these people, and they give the order, hire these mercenaries to do it. But you look at these people, they look like your next door neighbor who bakes cookies for your kids, and then you bring over for a birthday party. They don't. They come across as just kind of friendly, normal, likable people, who really don't seem to be really mean-spirited, but their characters are so blinded by the greed, of making these hundreds of millions of dollars that they give this order, they hire these mercenaries to do this terrible thing. Now the mercenaries, they look like evil. They're macho, bodybuilding, steroid-using, antisocial types, who enjoy violence, who enjoy using violence and take pride in it. But the people who are hiring them, come across as the banality of evil. And to me, John Sayles wrote the script, and that was, I thought, one of his best works as kind of a really good exploitation film. It's called Men of War, and if you ever get a chance to see it, it is definitely worth checking out. But one of the things I want to say also about that movie, praising it, is this is, while I don't like to use the Odyssey or the Iliad, they do use the Bhagavad Gita, and they use it very well. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the Bhagavad Gita, which is probably most of you, it's a story of Arjuna having to decide, should I fight for the bad guys who are going to pay me and pay me well, who are also, a lot of them are my friends and family, on the bad guy side, or should I fight for what I believe to be right, even against the odds, and probably the only thing I'm going to end up is dead. I'm badly outnumbered. The smart move, is to go with the bad guys and be part of the winning team and make lots of money, But in his heart, he's like, no, I don't, but I don't really want to do that. I want to, I want to fight for what I believe in. Arjuna is saying to Lord Krishna, what should I do? And Krishna says to him, go with what is right, regardless of the odds. Fight for what is right, for what you believe in. Whether you win or lose is irrelevant. What you have done is set the right example for other people to follow. And that is a victory in of itself. Because they take the Bhagavad Gita story and they weave it in here, where Dolph Lundgren is playing one of the mercenary leaders, and he's given the same choice Arjuna is. Do I fight for this corporation, make a ton of money, and sell out my principles, or do stand by these people who are being bullied and exterminated, who don't deserve it, and probably end up dying fighting here, and they have no money to pay me, nothing. And in the end, he decides, okay, I'm going to stand by my principles, and that's why, I give it such a high rating, even though it's kind of an exploitation film. But, it's so well done. It's so well done, it's like, okay, we can't really, I don't know if I can really call, even though it has exploitation elements, it's like, it's it's at least a cult classic. It's a pretty darn good film, and that's probably about a good place for us to wrap. We're just about done here. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Josh is in the control room.
Yeah.
He's throwing up the sign. He's throwing up the 10-minute sign. And yeah, that was screenwriting tips. One more question.
Yeah, sure.
One more question before we go. Screenwriters. There's a little group. Yeah. It's a little bit of there's
kind of club
groups. And they all kind of know each other. So what's it like when you have like an established writer, established script writer? Ask an opinion. Ask an opinion about what you think about some of the stuff that they're working on or
other
created.
people have done. Yeah.
Yeah. What's that like?
Oh, I tell you, it feels great. It feels like $1 million. It feels fantastic. The fact that they would even, one, that they'd even ask my opinion, two, that they give real weight to it. You see what I'm saying? And it's fun. In the business, I've given my opinion on some works, where they wanted me to say, okay, it was fantastic. They worked on this. An example of that is the movie Gang Related. And they wanted my opinion, and they wanted me to say, okay, I think it's a classic. I think it's a masterpiece. And I'm like, no, I give it about a C+. The writing, it's not that original. It's not that innovative. It's not that daring. It does have an arc. It does have character growth in it. It's interesting and it moves along well, but it's not a masterpiece. It's not a classic, but it's good enough to be made. And a C+ is not an insult. It's a compliment, but it's not a huge compliment. I mean, to really, to get an A, you really have to do something that's just, really phenomenal, like a movie like Pulp Fiction, where they took huge risks and they pulled it off quite well, where you have a story that's written on theme, or a couple different themes. One of the themes is, what is it to be a man? Is a man someone who just does what's violent? Do we find manhood through violence, or do we find it through integrity and loyalty? And that movie brings up these issues, but it does it in such an entertaining way that's easy to forget how good the writing in Pulp Fiction really is.